Feeling a little
lost?
Let us help you find the magic. This is Dizzoriented.
Dizzoriented is a podcast that covers the Walt Disney World parks, resorts, Disney news, and pop culture. If you want to get in on the conversation, find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Dizzoriented, or check out our website, Dizzoriented.com.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Hey Jess, welcome back to Dizzoriented.
Hi, Dave.
This is episode number 62 for October the 28th of 2018.
Wow.
By the time you're hearing this, it's going to be just about Halloween time or just before. So happy Halloween, everybody. Hope you enjoyed our Villains episode, which released earlier in the month. If you have not already, check out our Instagram story highlights. So I posted a few feedback questions there to get your opinions on those Disney Villain Awards that we gave out. So if you want to have your say, go ahead and shoot us your opinion, and I'm going to compile those and set something up for a mini episode at the beginning of November. All right, today the focus is going to be international.
Ooh.
But before we go into that, we got some feedback from a couple of people on our Instagram posts, and they would like us to talk about the Walt Disney World ticket changes and price increase information. So we thought this to be important information to cover for you guys, and also we wanted to lay out the facts here for you, so if you have any questions or additional questions for us, you can certainly reach out and we can open up more of a discussion on that. What I will say is we are going to link a lot of helpful information in the show notes and on our website, so you all can get this information from a first-hand source, not just from us. But let me break down for you here what the changes are. First, we're going to start with the tickets and how you would go ahead and buy tickets. And then we'll go into some price increase information. So it's going to hit your wallet, folks.
It's something.
All right. So effective October the 16th, Walt Disney World launched a new online vacation planning destination, and it began offering date-based tickets and pricing. So before, regardless of, well, I guess there was roughly a date-based system because they had peak and non-peak times and pricing for those tickets. But compared to previous pricing, some tickets have either decreased, increased, or have stayed the same, depending on the start date and the length of your ticket. So those are going to be two things that are going to dictate how much your tickets will be. Hey everybody, it's Dave. Point of clarity on that previous point about seasonal pricing for tickets. Previously, there was seasonal pricing for one-day tickets. So when I mentioned there was peak and non-peak prices, that applied previously to only one-day tickets. Now, with this change in pricing structure, it is applied to multi-day tickets as well. Just wanted to clear that up. Thanks, and back to the show. You might ask yourself, like we did, why was this done? Well, I guess our best guess on this is that Disney changed their ticket pricing policy to reflect expected demand and crowd levels. So, more crowded days obviously will be more expensive, and the less popular times of the year will be cheaper. And this will be reflected in the examples we give, and it was reflected in some of the examples that Disney gave, because they obviously want to highlight, I guess, better value for those less crowded seasons.
I think pros and cons. Yeah.
All right, so here are some examples, two specifically, and these are called out on a graphic or a quick reference guide that Disney supplied, so that'll be included in all of the linked information we give you. So the first one here is a 3-day ticket with a start date of approximately Valentine's Day, February the 10th of 2019. Disney is citing that those tickets are going to be now $4 less per day than they were in the previous pricing period.
Okay.
While on the other hand, a 6-day ticket with the start date of this Thanksgiving, so that's, November 22nd, 2018, they're saying that a ticket now as compared to last year at that time is going to be $5 more per day because it's one of the more popular times, obviously, to visit the parks. So that's an example of, I guess, the major change or contrast for this particular system versus the previous when they had just those set prices of peak, non-peak. Now they're going to yield, I guess, the prices very similar to like hotel prices, where you're going to see cheaper prices for those less crowded times to attract more people in, obviously, and then they're going to raise prices for the more crowded times. I don't think it's going to scare anybody away, but they're going to reap the benefits of people paying more for those tickets at more popular times. All right, so here are the facts. So a one-day ticket will range now from $109 to $129.
Woof.
And that's a one-day ticket. If you wanted to add Park Hopper, you're adding $55 to that price.
A day?
Correct.
No.
Yes.
A day.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not significantly different than what
Currently is?
what currently is.
That AP just really glosses over everything.
Yeah. And then if you want to do the Park Hopper Plus, which includes water parks, mini golf, Wide World of Sports, that is $80 per ticket per day. That's on top of the base price.
Okay.
I guess the interesting thing is that they're not going to yield the Park Hopper or change the Park Hopper. They're just going to be changing that base ticket price.
Okay.
And that the Park Hopper and Park Hopper Plus are just add-ons for those tickets.
Okay.
All right. So along with the price changes and the pricing structure they have in place, there are going to be date restrictions, or I guess more stringent date restrictions for these tickets. Previously, your multi-day Magic Your Way tickets could be used within 14 days of their first use. So if you had a 2-day ticket, you can go to the park on the first day and then skip the next 12 and go on the 14th day, and your ticket would still be good. Well, this is no longer the case. So your multi-day tickets will now have, again, like I had said, a more restrictive window for use. Well, if you buy more days worth of a ticket, you will get more legs on it on the back end, but here's how it breaks down. So if it is a 2 or 3 day ticket, you will be able to use that ticket for that number of days plus 2. So if it's a 3-day ticket, you'll be able to use that ticket within 5 days. If it's a 4 to 7 day ticket, you have that number of days plus 3. So 7-day ticket, you will be able to use in 10 days. And if it's an 8 to 10 day ticket, you're going to have that number of days plus 4. Sorry. So I was about to say, if you have a 10-day ticket, it would be good for 14 days.
I wonder why. I mean, I guess I understand if they are focusing on peak versus non-peak season days, etc. But I wonder why they did
Well,
this.
my thought is that from an analytics and data perspective, Disney is limiting their guests to more narrow or specific windows.
Okay.
So they're going to be improving their ability to predict
like staff
attendance.
and stuff like that. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, and to your point specifically, right? I mean, they'll be able to staff up for days where they are expecting, higher crowds.
It's going to be wild. Christmas.
Yeah. As it always is. All right, so here's the good news, I guess. Good news in all of this, although you're going to pay more. If you're purchasing a vacation package through the Walt Disney site, you're not going to be experiencing any type of change. So your ticket buying experience is going to be the same, right? The price of your tickets are going to be based on the start date of your hotel stay. I guess strategically, I would say if you wanted to see, or if you had some flexibility, you're not always going to have that. Maybe look at the pricing calendars we'll mention in a minute here to see what the cheapest possible start day is, and then arrange your hotel stay based on that. Or do some playing around with your dates to see if you see a reduction in your ticket costs.
That's a good point.
However, if you're buying tickets only, you're going to be able to view that pricing calendar I mentioned, and it's going to give you the entirety of the existing ticket window through mid-December 2019. So they've already established the ticket price per day through this window, which again is the middle of December 2019. Disney, I suppose, has committed to these prices. They're not going to be raising them or changing them and lowering them, of course. So this is their best guess on crowd levels, I suppose. I mean, the higher the ticket price, as we said before, the more they're expecting people to be there. So a weekend ticket is going to be more expensive than a weekday ticket. Stuff like that. You're going to be able to select your date and your length of the ticket, like I said before, and the price per day of your ticket will depend on the price of the first day that you will use it. So like I'd said before, if you are planning to be there over a weekend, you might want to look at starting your ticket on Thursday,
yep.
right, instead of a Saturday. But then, of course, you would lose the ability to be flexible with those dates on the back end. Mm-hmm. So there's some strategy to this, but save your bucks where you can. All right, so another option for you is to create a flexible date ticket. So here's how that works, which is kind of funky in and of itself. You can buy a regular ticket, but then add a surcharge onto that ticket price to make it a flexible date ticket.
So if you're buying a ticket now and you're like, I want to go sometime next year, I just don't know when, this would probably be the ticket you'd want to commit to if you wanted to have a ticket in hand.
That is correct. These tickets will be good any day prior to December 31st, 2019.
Okay.
But once you activate or use the ticket, the first day of the ticket, I should say, it is only good for 14 days.
Okay, so it's kind of going back to that 14
Correct.
day.
Yeah, it's more or less a Magic Your Way ticket.
Gotcha.
As it existed previously.
All right. Okay.
But here's the rub, though. You're going to have to pay an additional surcharge of $15 to $55 per ticket per day for those flexible date tickets. And I'm assuming the sooner you buy them, the higher the surcharge will be because your window for use is going to be longer.
Oh, I wondered how that was going to work.
Yeah, so
okay.
if you buy it today, obviously you're going to have all the way to December 31st of next year to use that.
Okay.
I would guess that the surcharge is going to be closer to that $55.
Per day?
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
Woof. All right.
A lot of people have said this already, and I'm echoing their opinion, so this, is not an original idea by me, so I'm not taking credit for it, but I think that the idea here is Disney is raising the ticket prices to discourage people from buying these tickets.
I think so.
What they want is, to the point we made before, is they want to better estimate their crowd levels throughout the year. So they want to discourage people from buying the tickets that are open-ended, and they want to nail people into certain time frames.
That makes sense.
So they can staff appropriately.
Yeah.
All right. A couple more facts here.
Facts.
There are no longer any park-specific prices. Tickets for, all tickets are the same price regardless of what park you want to visit, right?
Okay.
I believe in the past there was some Magic Kingdom specific pricing.
Yep.
That is no longer the case.
Okay.
And then, like I had mentioned before, prices are fixed for all dates through the established ticket window.
Okay.
And again, that's based on Disney's best estimate of demand and crowd level. So they're not going to be changing the prices up to the expiration of that window. So that they're locked in. Okay, that was a lot.
That was a lot. But
Jess, did you follow me? Do you understand what this concept is, this date-based ticket pricing?
I definitely understand it. I haven't gone in and tried to do any of it myself, so I'm not super familiar with the intricacies and stuff like that, and if there's any way to kind of like, not beat the system, but kind of like cheat it.
Yeah.
Same thing. Same thing.
I played with it a little bit. The thing that Disney will continue to go back to is they're going to say that this gives you more choice, right?
Okay.
They are very, clear and transparent about what the ticket prices are per day in this schedule. We mentioned this before, right? If you buy a 2-day ticket and you know that you have a 5-day window, if you're someone who is knowledgeable about this situation, you'll know that you can look for the start date that is your least expensive ticket option, right?
Okay.
So there's some gamesmanship to be played here.
Okay.
And the problem with many folks is that they're not Disney pros, they're not experienced with this, so they're going to be going to the first day that they're visiting, right?
Like
and they're going to assume that that's the date that you have to nail in. Well,
Gotcha.
We're here to tell you that you need to take advantage of the choice that Disney does give you and, do the best thing for your family and for your wallet as well. So
Interesting.
do what you can to save yourself a buck. I guess that's all we're trying to say.
Yeah, and I guess you don't see them lowering anything often. So I guess the fact that they are lowering ticket prices, even if it is only $4 a day, like in those less popular times, at least that's saying something that they are trying to, just kind of move their business model forward and, capitalize when it's busy and kind of not reward people necessarily, but something like that as far as like the slower times go, where if you want to come visit, you'll be paying less. So I appreciate that.
They're dynamically trying to change consumer behaviors maybe with this.
Yeah, maybe.
Or, trying to make it more appealing for those less popular times. And again, people are pretty much locked into vacations because of school calendars.
It's true.
I mean, I suppose Disney is becoming that year-round destination and people are no longer, banking on summer to be that go-to time. So mean, maybe all this has been flipped on its head, and this is the best way to do it, because they can dynamically change the prices for the next period if they see that February is a higher crowd time. So they're preparing themselves to be more economically successful, which is their right to do.
Yeah.
So they're being smart about it, or trying to be. So I guess I give them credit for that.
It'll be interesting to see how we fare in it if we don't renew our APs and kind of play around with it and see what works best for our family in that instance. So
yeah, we'll
be interesting.
We'll probably talk about this in the new year, but we're not sure if we're going to renew our annual passes. So we're going to sit down and do some math and look at our schedules, vacation schedule for next year, and it'll be an interesting episode to talk about that with you all. So if you have any thoughts, let us know. But talking about annual passes,
hello, segue.
Ta-da! They're going up.
Ta-da!
As with some other things at Walt Disney World. And this is effective on October the 16th as well. So by the time you hear this, this will be the law of the land. Two things to highlight here. Some other things, of course, that I read some blog articles where food prices were increased. Some merch prices were increased. So this is that time of year where Disney adjusts. The thing that we're concerned with specifically here is parking increase, parking fees, and then an annual pass increase. So this goes hand in hand with those tickets that you're going to be buying that will go up in price. First, the parking, not as dramatic, I suppose, but here are your new parking fees. If you're parking a car on property, it is going to be $25, up from $22. An oversized vehicle, whatever that is, it is $30, now up from $27. And your preferred parking is $50, up from $45.
Hello.
All right, here is the interesting thing, the annual pass increase. Pretty significant, I'd say.
Yeah.
We're only going to talk about here the Platinum and Platinum Plus because we are not Florida residents. There's a whole different set of discounts and options if you are a Florida resident, so go ahead and consult some of the links that we supply in the show notes if you're interested in that, if you're able to take advantage of a Florida discount by hook or by crook, who knows. If you're interested in a Platinum Plus annual pass, it is going to run you now $994.
Wow.
It is up 9%. Previous price, $869. And then your standard out of Florida annual pass is the standard Platinum. That is $894 now, up from $779. That is also a 9% increase.
That's significant, especially because these don't include tax.
Right.
So that is something.
Interestingly, though, the Premier Passport, which allows you access to both parks, did not change.
Oh, really?
It is $1,579 plus tax, of course.
Chump change, really.
So, if you are a bi-coastal Disney visitor, that's good news for you. All right, so a lot of math, a lot of numbers here, but we wanted to make you aware of the ticket pricing changes, the change in strategy for pricing from Disney. If you have any thoughts, concerns, questions, hit us up on our social media, and we will let you know what we think. Now let's go to our main topic. I mentioned it briefly when we first started, but we are going international today.
Whoop, whoop.
So after watching a lot of YouTube videos of people's recent trips to Japan, most specifically I'd say, and also fan days at Disneyland Paris, we wanted to research a little bit about the international parks, and we came up with a little bit of a bucket list of attractions that we would like to visit at those international parks. So we're going to go over 6 attractions we thought worth mentioning, then a little bit of news, I suppose. We're going to talk about attractions that were international that are coming to America, and then a little bit of a comparison exercise. Okay, so let's start with our attractions, Jess.
All right. Full disclosure, Dave did a great job researching all of these and kind of showed me and watched videos and stuff like that, but this was all Dave.
Well, we'll see what you all have to say as well as Jess when we kind of go through these attractions. All right, first one, and this is at Tokyo Disney Sea. It is a ride or attraction called Journey to the Center of the Earth. So for all of these, there's a little bit of a summary, a story, and then maybe some fun facts about it. So some reading from me, and Jess, please chip in with any color commentary you might have.
Of course.
All right, so here's the summary for Journey to the Center of the Earth. The enigmatic genius, Captain Nemo, has unearthed a heretofore unknown world deep underground. I needed to include heretofore.
Yeah, I've literally never seen that word in my life.
During your journey on board a unique subterranean vehicle, the volcano suddenly shakes and erupts, taking you where even Captain Nemo has never been before.
The center of the Earth?
Yeah.
No way.
Perhaps. The volcano of Mysterious Island, Mount Prometheus, and that's the area of the park that this ride sits in, has become Captain Nemo's base. After traveling through its caverns and past several of Nemo's labs, you're going to board a Terravator to the facility's base station 1/2 mile below the Earth. And the scientist who mans it is currently away on a tea break. Conveniently, so no one's there to stop you from journeying to the center of the Earth. So you're going to be riding a steam-powered mine vehicle that travels through some pre-drilled tunnels into the heart of the Earth, and there begins your journey to the center of the Earth.
Ooh, full circle.
Yeah. So the cool thing about this, and it's going to pop up a couple of other times in this discussion, and by the time this episode releases, I'll probably already have released an article, but there's a lot of tie-in to something called the Society of Explorers and Adventurers, or SEA, specifically in this park at Tokyo Disney Sea, but elsewhere now across the international parks and even at Walt Disney World and Disneyland. There seems to be quite a bit of overlap and incorporation of this group or this story. So it's a rather creative and good use of immersive storytelling. So there's a lot below the surface that you can really lean into and learn about if you take a closer look at some of these attractions. So I wanted to call that out. All right, here is the fun fact for Journey to the Center of the Earth. This ride was originally planned as a free fall ride, so similar to Tower of Terror, right? And it was going to be a part of something called Discovery Mountain, a former Disneyland Paris concept in place of Space Mountain, which is strange.
It is.
Since that drop ride was never built, the project was reimagined and it reemerged in Tokyo Disney Sea with the technology from Test Track.
Oh, so it is the Test Track.
It is.
Track.
Right. Well, I guess here is the kind of generational concept of the ride. So Gen 1 was Test Track, right? So we've all, or most of us have ridden that at Epcot. That was kind of the first phase of that particular attraction. Phase 2 was this one, Journey to the Center of the Earth. You know what? I should have looked at when this ride was built, but I think it was an opening day attraction in Tokyo.
Is that like not quite 20 years old?
I think so. I'll have to get back to you all on that. But then the most recent version of this ride technology is Radiator Springs Racers at DCA. So if you've been on either Test Track or Radiator Springs Racers, you have experienced the ride technology that this attraction uses.
Okay.
It's roughly the same track layout as Test Track and Radiator Springs.
Interesting.
Which is cool. Let's then move on to our second attraction, which is the Phantom Manor at Disneyland Paris. I love this backstory, so please bear with me as I nerd out on this. Here's the history of this attraction, which is noteworthy in and of itself. So while planning Euro Disneyland, which of course became Disneyland Paris, Tony Baxter, the executive designer for Walt Disney Imagineering, decided that certain staple Disney attractions would have to be modified for the new park, right? So Haunted Mansion was among those selected, and for this particular version, it was given a darker tone. The story of Phantom Manor was inspired by the never-built Western River Expedition, and it was a Pirates of the Caribbean-style attraction designed by someone named Mark Davis for Frontierland. So here's the story. Henry Ravenswood was a Western settler who struck gold in Big Thunder Mountain, which is also there at Disneyland Paris. It's worth noting here that Phantom Manor is considered, I guess, a part of Frontierland at Disneyland Paris, and it has kind of a Western motif to it, which makes it different than the other two mansions. At Disney World, it's more of a Northeastern style to go along with the Liberty Square attachment. And then at Disneyland in California, it's more of a like Southern style plantation because it's next to New Orleans Square. But this one is in Frontierland. So therefore, the tie to Big Thunder Mountain makes sense. The gentleman I mentioned, Henry Ravenswood, is the founder of Thunder Mesa Mining Company, thus creating the city of Thunder Mesa. Ravenswood became a rich man and built himself a Victorian manor high on Boot Hill, overlooking Big Thunder Mountain, where he raised his family and had a daughter, Melanie. And even has the dates here. She was born in 1842.
Wow. Storytelling.
Yeah. So Big Thunder Mountain was rumored by natives to be home of the Thunderbird, a powerful spirit possessing a treasure. According to the legend, its wrath could be materialized into a terrible earthquake.
Oh, no.
But however, Ravenswood would not believe such stories. Time went by, and the gold in Big Thunder Mountain became scarce, making miners dig deeper into the mountain. Well, you probably understand what happens next. Henry's daughter Melanie grew from a young girl into a beautiful young lady and became engaged to a train engineer who planned to take her far away from Thunder Mesa, much to the dismay of Daddy Henry. Henry did everything he could to stop the wedding, but his useless attempts were put to a stop when a terrible earthquake, there it is, killed him and his wife Martha.
Well,
And it seemed that the Thunderbird had been awakened, and the family was never heard of again.
wow.
Dark, like I had said.
That is dark.
So instead of the bride, like we have at the Disneyland and Disney World versions of Phantom Manor, you have this character of Melanie, who oversees the haunted or abandoned Phantom Manor.
Interesting.
And I forgot to mention this in the first ride we went over, Journey to the Center of the Earth, but we're going to be embedding into the show notes and website ride videos so you all can ride along and check it out, see if you like it as much as maybe I did. This one wasn't Jess's favorite, but I'm a big Haunted Mansion fan, so I thought it was a cool spin. All right, next. And this is probably the attraction that I would spend the most money to go see.
Yeah?
Yeah, and it is Mystic Manor at Hong Kong Disneyland.
This one did look very interesting. I actually did watch this video,
Yeah.
and I was very into it.
Yeah, and it's one of the more recent additions to Disney parks. It was built in 2013.
Okay.
So here is a summary. Mystic Manor is a dark ride attraction in the Mystic Point area of Hong Kong Disneyland. So this really is Hong Kong Disneyland's version of the Haunted Mansion, but because culturally they're not into the whole ghosts and spirits thing, they leaned on this particular idea to replace it.
Which I did actually find very interesting. I thought it was a different take on it.
Yeah,
and I would probably actually prefer more than the Haunted Mansion.
Fair enough. Unlike the Haunted Mansion attraction and its counterparts, Mystic Manor has a lighthearted fantasy-based theme with no references to departed spirits or the afterlife,
What's up?
due to differences in traditional Chinese culture. So the attraction does feature several references to the Haunted Mansion, such as a changing portraits, a conservatory, and the bus that turn to follow visitors as they move. So those are kind of staples of Haunted Mansions. It also includes references to other Disney attractions. So there are figures that represent or are similar to the birds in the Enchanted Tiki Room, which is kind of cool.
Yep.
So the attraction utilizes a trackless ride system, similar to the one that is used in Pooh's Honey Hunt and Ratatouille. We'll talk about Pooh's Honey Hunt in a little bit. It features a musical score by Danny Elfman.
That
which
is cool. Yeah.
And it continues the trend of using the Society of Explorers and Adventurers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the gentleman who is in charge of Mystic Manor is also a member of the SEA.
Gotcha.
So for more information on that, check out that article I will post on our website. So Mystic Manor tells the story of that gentleman, Lord Henry Mystic, and his pet monkey Albert. Having recently acquired an enchanted music box, Albert opens the box and it brings everything inside of the house to life. So it's kind of like Poltergeist.
It's a little more lighthearted than Poltergeist.
Yeah. All right. So the ride system, I won't go into details here, but there are 37 carriages that the attraction uses. And if you look at the ride videos, you'll see kind of how the how the trackless technology makes it a more dynamic experience, where you have those sequences where the cars seem to dance around each other. Yep. It's more unpredictable. It allows the Imagineers more freedom to send people in different directions or different paths, because obviously there is no track. So check out the ride video on this one. I think it's worth a view, I guess more so than any of the others.
I'd agree. Yeah.
All right, so that is Mystic Manor, the third attraction on my list.
Ooh.
Number 4, this one probably nearer and dearer to Jess's heart. It is at Tokyo Disneyland, and it is Monsters, Inc. Ride and Go Seek.
Yes.
So if I had to describe this before I go into the summary and description, I would say it's maybe a mix of the Mike and Sully to the Rescue attraction at California Adventure plus like Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin.
I'm glad you didn't compare it to Midway Mania, because I don't think it's that new and I don't think it's that interactive.
Yeah, that's correct. I think that's right.
Okay.
All right, so Monsters, Inc. Ride and Go Seek is an interactive dark ride attraction at Tokyo Disneyland, and it's, of course, based on the film Monsters, Inc.
No
from
way.
Disney and Pixar.
What?
All right, so the attraction can be found at the entrance of Tomorrowland under the guise of the Monsters, Inc. Scare Factory from the film.
I actually do love the way that this looks because it just looks like Monsters, Inc.
Yeah, it looks like the factory,
From
right?
outside. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Taking place long after the events of the film, the factory's new slogan has been changed to "We scare because we care" to "It's laughter that we're after." All right, once inside the factory, an instructional video is presented to the guests on the premise of Fleshlight Tag,
Aw.
narrated by the one and only Mike Wazowski. After learning how to play, guests are sent into security vehicles that have been equipped with individual flashlights. So think of Space Ranger Spin at Disneyland, where the guns are detachable,
Yep.
I'd say. Once you have boarded, the vehicles take off and enter the inner sanctums of the factory.
I will say that, yes, it's narrated by Mike Wazowski, but it is narrated in Japanese. So I think it would be a little more difficult for me to maybe follow along, but I think it's one of those rides where you can probably catch on pretty quickly regardless of the language barrier.
I think so.
I'd hope.
As far as the ride system goes, I think you've kind of gleaned it from my description before, but while on board, the flashlights turn on, allowing guests to point them at various objects, activating different characters and objects, making them come to life. So just like Space Ranger Spin, if you shoot a target, it activates some type of motion or activity in and around it. So you're shining a flashlight on, Randall, and he pops out of a garbage can or something. It's cool. I like it.
Adorable.
It is very unique and playful, and it's a variation, of course, on the Toy Story shooting arcade attractions that we have at the domestic parks. But maybe the highlight, to the point that Jess made when I first started reading here, is the queue, the ride area. The thing that I can compare it most to is the foyer or the entrance of the Dino Institute.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I think it's a close. I mean, they probably even took some construction cues,
Like layout-wise.
yeah, between the two, and I'm not even sure when, relative to the other, they were built, but they're more or less, they have the same look, and it's really kind of a spitting image of the factory as Mike and Sully enter, many times throughout the film. It gives you immediately that feeling of being in the movie. So it's really something to see and experience, and I would love to take advantage of going to Tokyo and doing this and checking it out.
That'd be nice.
All right, next on our list, this one, maybe a dark horse for my favorites.
Oh, yeah. For
Probably
your favorite.
probably not Jess's, but it is Sinbad's Storybook Voyage, and this is also at Tokyo Disney Sea. Sinbad's Storybook Voyage is a dark ride in I don't know why I copied this, in boats at Tokyo Disneyland. So it's a boat ride. The attraction features the song Compass of Your Heart, composed by Alan Menken. So he composed this specifically for the attraction. It was originally titled Sinbad's Seven Voyages.
Okay.
And before, the attraction had a darker tone and no song.
Hello.
So Alan Menken was brought in, and it was lightened up to, increase its popularity with guests.
That's fair.
This one is going to be short, but it's more or less described as a cross between It's a Small World and some people say Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
There are some action sequences, general mischief.
I do like how it looks and stuff, so I would definitely go on it.
There are an impressive amount of animatronics on this. There are over 150 in the attraction itself.
Wow.
And the attraction clocks in at over 11 minutes in duration. So it is a long ride, tons of animatronics, and the quality and care paid to the music and the arrangements on this are second to none.
Well, I mean, that makes sense because Small World is 47 hours long, so
Good comparison.
that's about right. Yeah.
It somehow warps space and time
Yes, it does.
to make it feel that long. And to top it off, Sinbad's Storybook Voyage, of course, features the cute tiger named Chandu,
Chandu.
which is kind of a park icon for Tokyo Disney Sea.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah. They have some special themed foods called Tiger Tails, which are Chandu themed, and you'll see him all over the place at Tokyo Disney Sea. Not as much as Duffy, but you'll see lots of Chandu.
Duffy's a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Duffy is like the biggest thing.
He has his
in
own
Tokyo.
photo spots.
Yeah.
It blows my mind.
So take a look at the video of this attraction. You're not going to understand what they're saying because, of course, it's in Japanese, unless you understand Japanese. So I don't. So that's why I say that. I speak for myself. But it is impressive.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then lastly on our list of attractions that we think you should check out is Pooh's Honey Hunt. And this is also at Tokyo Disneyland.
And I think this is my dark horse favorite.
Yeah.
But also maybe not a dark horse.
Well, it's more or less the graduated version or the best version of the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
So you can find that at Magic Kingdom as well as at Disneyland. Some people say the Magic Kingdom version is better than Disneyland.
Oh, really?
We didn't go on it when we were at
didn't.
Disneyland because it's tucked away back in Critter Country. And because of the Galaxy's Edge construction, it's kind of hard to get to. It's kind of like a terminus at the end of the park.
And also we didn't have kids, so like,
Right.
no.
Well, I enjoyed riding it with my friend
Aw.
Tony at Walt Disney World, so I would give it a shot at Disneyland if I went again. But anyway, Pooh's Honey Hunt, it opened at Tokyo Disneyland, is an evolution, of course, like I said, of the Winnie the Pooh attractions at both World and Land. It has a budget of over $130 million, and it features a never-before-used, at the time, trackless ride technology. So this is the first trackless ride.
Okay.
All right, Pooh's Honey Hunt opened in late 2000 to large crowds and praised by many Disney fans and internet fan sites. So to date, the attraction continues to have some of the longest wait times of any attraction at Tokyo Disneyland. We won't really get into the details or specifics of the attraction, but it is a trackless version of Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, more or less. And the most impressive sequence, or the one that I think everyone likes the most, is the Heffalumps and Woozles sequence. Instead of the kind of winding track-based version you get in the stateside parks, it turns into kind of like a honeypot dance party.
Yeah, it's wild with the other cars and stuff, right?
It is really something to see. And a lot of people that go to Tokyo Disneyland say that this is, the best ride that they've been on. So it captures, the whimsy of the Winnie the Pooh rides in the domestic parks, but then it adds that element of excitement and spontaneity with the trackless system. And I guess that's all I'll say about that.
Okay.
But I would encourage you all to take a look at the videos that we include as links here for all the attractions. Do some exploring. I mean, if your only experience thus far has been the domestic parks, you may be inspired to travel abroad and experience Disney in some other countries or cultures. So we would encourage you to travel as much as you can. And if Disney is a comfortable place and it introduces you to, Asia, Tokyo, or, even over to Paris, go ahead and do that.
And I think, just from having two young kids, and obviously we're pretty big Disney fans, I think this would be a good way to introduce our children to other cultures and trips around the world when the time comes, obviously. But
and when we get some money.
Yes. But I think this would be a good starting point.
Yeah, agreed. So let's then transition to some attractions that are coming to America.
America.
Everywhere around the world, they come to America.
All right, so two in particular, and these are both coming to Walt Disney World. So lucky us as frequenters of the Florida parks. But you probably already know this. The Tron Light Cycle Power Run roller coaster is coming to Tomorrowland at the Magic Kingdom. It is an e-ticket motorcycle-style coaster, and it's going to be installed by the time the 50th anniversary rolls around in 2021. I'm going to include a link to the existing ride, or a ride-through video, I should say, of the ride that exists at Shanghai Disney. Many people say it is the best thrill ride at that park. It is very good, and a lot of people are super excited about it coming stateside.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm one of them as well.
Very excited.
And I hope it kicks off a tonal shift in Tomorrowland.
I do too. I also hope that our kids are tall enough to ride this
Yeah.
when the time comes.
They've got a couple of years, so let's hope so. All right, the other attraction that is coming to America that is at the foreign parks that we are excited to see is the Ratatouille attraction, which is coming to Epcot. I don't know if I'd go as far as saying it's an e-ticket, but it's very much on par with the Frozen attraction in Norway. It is a 4D trackless dark ride coming to the France Pavilion, and they're building a whole separate street or alleyway, I guess I'd call it, in the France Pavilion that leads to Ratatouille. So maybe even another quick service eatery, gift shops, all that stuff. So general expansion of France in Epcot is never a bad thing.
Nope.
But this ride is set to be the centerpiece of that. There are many ride videos for the France version. The cool thing about this is it will be the first trackless ride at... Well, no, scratch that, because if Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway opens before the Ratatouille attraction, that will be the first trackless dark ride, the trackless ride period at Walt Disney World. But this is also a trackless ride. It will be the first at Epcot. I'll go ahead and say that.
There we go. It'll be exciting.
Yeah. So a brief section here, but we wanted to highlight those attractions or rides that are coming to America. And you can go ahead and preview those by checking out the videos we link in the show notes. All right, next section. Who does it better?
Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you.
Oh, you can.
Yes, I can.
Oh, you can.
Yes, I can.
Oh, you can.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
3 particular attractions I want to talk about here, Jess.
Okay.
You might have some thoughts. First, I want to talk about Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay.
So we recently went to Disneyland in California, and we even put up a little poll asking our viewers or observers on Instagram whether they prefer the Walt Disney World or Disneyland version of Pirates of the Caribbean. Well, that might be a moot point because many people consider the Disneyland Paris version to be arguably the superior version of the classic Pirates of the Caribbean attraction.
Okay.
Because it's most similar to the Disneyland version, so it has the length of Disneyland.
Gotcha, which is long.
Yeah, but it also has the most fresh take on it.
Okay.
It has the best animatronics. I mean, obviously it's the most recent, so that might be why.
Yeah, okay.
But what I wanted to also raise here as a contender is the Shanghai Disney version of Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, this is a completely different premise, and a lot of people say that this ride system in and of itself should be used for many new rides that are being proposed, including that one that we mentioned on a previous episode about possible Jungle Book dark ride for Epcot. But the Shanghai version of Pirates of the Caribbean is called the Battle for Sunken Treasure. And the thing that's unique about this is that it completely abandons the classic Disney version of Pirates and relies completely on the movie version of Pirates of the Caribbean. So it's your Davy Jones, your Blackbeard, your Captain Jack Sparrow, although Jack Sparrow appears, and also Barbossa appears in the classic versions as well. This is the most technologically advanced, but some people ding it because it doesn't have that classic Pirates feel.
Disney, yeah.
So we ask you all to compare this with the classic Walt Disney World and Disneyland versions and tell us who do you think does it better? Pirates of the Caribbean. All right, next on the list, and this one Jess might have an opinion on, is Space Mountain. So, 2 things about Space Mountain in Disneyland Paris specifically that I want to ask you about.
Okay.
So we got a chance to experience Disneyland and Walt Disney World, and I think you, along with me, would agree that Disneyland is probably the superior version, right?
I agree.
Because it has that side-by-side ride system as well as the better piped-in audio and soundtrack for the ride cars themselves.
And it did seem slightly smoother as well.
Yes, agreed. Well, the Disneyland Paris version is called, I think it's called like Mission Version 2. It's meant to be something different.
Okay.
It is a, I guess, thoroughly more aggressive coaster. It includes a launch sequence similar to Rock and Roller Coaster.
Oh, wow.
And it also includes inversions. So
No, it doesn't.
This Space Mountain goes upside down.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And as far as the exterior goes, and I'll get into this a little bit in that article I write about the SEA, but the whole theme of Tomorrowland in Disneyland Paris is more of a...
It's almost like steampunk.
It is more steampunk, yeah. And it's less... Well, the color palette itself is different. It leans more on like aqua colors and gold.
Okay, I was
less,
going to say like bronze
less
and teal,
white.
Okay.
So it looks very much different, and there are lots of gears and whatnot happening. So let me ask you, well, without experiencing it yourself, I guess it would be hard to judge, but would you rather ride the Disneyland Paris version of Space Mountain, knowing now that it has this aggressive twist, or do you think Disneyland still has it in your mind?
I don't know. It's funny because I've seen a few videos of some vloggers we watch that get off of this version, Disneyland Paris, and they are like I need to sit down. I need to take a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And that's interesting to me. It's like, wait, is this like Mission Space, like Orange? What's going on? So I don't know. I think I'd probably still take Disneyland for now, but I would be really interested to ride it.
Yeah, so would I. My stomach isn't what it used to be,
No,
but
same.
I'd certainly give it a shot. Okay, last on our list of who does it better, it is the Tower of Terror. 2 towers I want to mention, and Disneyland, of course, is out of the running now that they've converted to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
In Disneyland Paris, the Tower of Terror is most similar to the version that existed at DCA prior to the Guardians of the Galaxy overhaul, I'll call it. It doesn't have the forward sequence that Walt Disney World has. It's just a simple drop sequence, right? But it does not have the Twilight Zone theming, which is strange. So I think if and when Disney World has to move away from the Twilight Zone affiliation, they might decide to go in this direction.
Okay.
So just remove Twilight Zone and keep it as the similar kind of
Hollywood
haunted hotel experience,
Okay.
right? But here's the other option. At Tokyo Disney Sea, the ride or attraction omits any connection or tie-in whatsoever with the Twilight Zone, as people don't know what the heck Twilight Zone is in Japan. Well, they probably do, but they don't care. Instead, the attraction is themed as a fictional hotel called Hotel Hightower. So it's not the Hollywood Tower Hotel. The scenario in that ride involves the adventures of the hotel's famous builder and owner, Mr. Harrison Hightower, who is modeled after Joe Rohde, if you look at a picture of Harrison Hightower. And he's also a member of the SEA.
I think that's very
Which is
neat.
another tie-in, which is really cool. So you're seeing in our conversation here the filling out of SEA across the rest of the parks.
Yeah.
So I would encourage you all to take a look at the ride video for this, the Tokyo Disney Sea version of Tower of Terror. Because I think if Disney is forced to move away from the Twilight Zone concept, I think that this would work just as good or better. And it would play into the whole SEA thing.
We get more of it in the park.
Right.
Yeah.
As you'll probably see if you read my article, I'm a fan of it. So I want to see more of it in the parks. But as a comparison, who does it better? Take a look at the information we provide and see if you would prefer the one that exists in Hollywood Studios in Florida, Disneyland Paris, stripped away from the strip away the Twilight Zone theming. But the other example and the more drastic departure is that one in Japan, which I think is really cool.
And what's that one is actually called Hotel Hightower?
It is called the Tower of Terror, I believe.
It is still called the Tower of Terror?
I believe so.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right. That is it for our Who Does It Better section. This is the section we want you to chime in on if you're able to. So take a look at, again, the content we provide, links and all that stuff, and let us know who does it better. All right. Finally... Well, I guess not finally. There's one final question after this section, but we wanted to highlight some new offerings that are coming to the international parks that are unique to the international parks and will not be offered domestically, so it might excite you even more about traveling. So a couple of highlights here. The first one is an expansion of Tokyo Disney Sea, which arguably among many people is already the best Walt Disney park out there. It's certainly number one on my list to foreshadow our question coming up. But they're adding a whole new port of call. So instead of lands, they have ports because it's Tokyo Disney Sea. They're adding a fantasy port, including a new hotel that's fantasy themed, but new areas with attractions and dining for Frozen, Tangled, and Peter Pan are coming to Tokyo Disney Sea. And I believe this is going to be the first ride-through Tangled attraction at Tokyo Disney Sea, which is really cool. I think for Frozen, they're doing something similar, but probably much more elaborate than Frozen Ever After. So as more information comes out about that, look it up because it looks to be very exciting. Also in Tokyo, there is a general expansion of their Fantasyland going on. So this is very exciting and probably exciting to you as well, Jess.
Yes.
There is going to be a Beauty and the Beast mini-land. Yes. And there is with that going to be a Be Our Guest, in finger quotes, mega e-ticket ride. So the budget of this attraction is similar to that of the Pirates of the Caribbean Shanghai version.
Oh my God.
And it is set to be the most expensive Disney attraction ever built.
I did not even know this was a thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we basically have to plan a trip to Tokyo.
I think so.
Okay.
And I don't have the opening date for this, but I believe it's 2021, 22 in that area. So
Okay.
a lot of people are low-key super psyched about this.
Yeah.
And you'll probably see a lot of attention paid to the Tokyo parks when both of these expansions come up, because it's a huge push toward more of the classic Disney content for those parks.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I agree. All right, 2 more here. There is, of course, Marvel expansion going on at those overseas parks. We, as Florida regulars, cannot take advantage of this because of contractual snafus with
Legality.
Universal, right? But there is an Iron Man overlay coming to the Disneyland Paris version of Rock and Roller Coaster. There is, of course, the conversion of Hotel New York at Disneyland Paris to Hotel New York, the Art of Marvel. So they're changing it to an entirely Marvel resort and hotel. They announced this, I think, several months ago, but rumor has it they're also bringing this to DCA. There is going to be an Ant-Man and the Wasp overlay of the Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters attraction at Hong Kong Disneyland.
Like forever?
Yes.
No.
It is being converted to an Ant-Man and the Wasp Marvel ride. Beyond that, sorry, hard transition there. There's going to be the general inclusion of Avengers-themed areas at all the Asian parks and, of course, at DCA. So rumors are still trickling out about what's going to be included at DCA, but, rumor is possible Captain America attraction or some type of Avengers roller coaster, something like that. So it'll be exciting to see what comes out Marvel-wise at those other parks.
Yes, it will.
All right, and then finally, they are, of course, going to bring Galaxy's Edge over to Tokyo Disney Sea. I believe that's been confirmed. Could be
Okay.
wrong, but that will enhance an already loaded park.
Wow. Yeah. That'd be insane.
Yeah.
Do they have room?
I don't know. I'll have to look at a map. All right, Jess, final question.
Dave.
We'll get us out of here. Which international park would you most like to visit? And before you answer that, maybe I should list the parks here so
Sure.
everyone is aware.
There we go.
There is Disneyland Paris. There is Tokyo Disney Sea and Tokyo Disneyland in Japan. There is Shanghai Disneyland. And then there is Hong Kong Disneyland. So of those parks, which do you think that you would most like to visit?
So, I feel like we're going to have the same answers. Wait, are Tokyo Sea and Tokyo Disneyland different?
They're different, but they're in the same place.
I would like to visit the Tokyo parks, I think. I think they just have so much to offer there. And maybe I'd wait until some of these things were open to go and maybe go to Disneyland Paris in the meantime. But yeah, I think with everything opening up there, that's going to be wild and just a destination for sure.
Right. My point was going to be Disneyland Paris is the most attainable, I
Yes,
think,
I agree.
especially for people on the west, not the West Coast. We're on the East Coast. Sorry. For people east of the Mississippi, I think Paris is the most attainable because you can get a cheap flight out of New York or somewhere else.
Toronto, yeah.
Yeah. And we're, of course, much more familiar with the English and European languages than Asian languages, so it seems maybe less intimidating. And I think at Disneyland Paris, much of the cast speaks English regularly.
I agree.
Anyway, so Paris is more attainable in my mind, but really the attraction list at the Tokyo parks is unbeatable, I think. I mean, if I was a huge Pirates of the Caribbean fan, I might want to go to Shanghai to check out that.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that seems very impressive. But if they recreate that ride technology in Tokyo with this Beauty and the Beast attraction, I mean...
Yeah, right?
I'd take that for sure.
And also Japan has mochi.
Yes,
So
mochi.
give me those.
Those green alien mochi.
Yes, please.
All right. Well, we probably give you a lot to consider with this
true.
episode. This one is going to lead to maybe some self-exploration on your own parts. So feel free to dig into that YouTube content, to blogs, articles, anything you can find on the international Disney parks, because I think that is generally an underappreciated aspect of Disney in the fan community. So because those parks are not local or even in our continent, we often overlook them and want to see the domestic parks get all this stuff. But there is some cool and unique things that you can experience in the other Disney parks, and we would encourage you to go ahead and check those out. All right. Jess, if someone wants to speak to us or reach us, they can find us on social media.
They can.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. They can check out our website, Dizzoriented.com, where they can read that article I recently posted about the Society of Explorers and Adventurers.
Yay.
And feel free to send us an email or call us on our Google Voice hotline if you'd like to ask us any questions or give us feedback. And I always forget to do this. Please leave us a review, because that helps other Disney fans find us by making it more likely to find us in the search results on iTunes. All right, Jess.
All right. Dave.
That is it for tonight.
It is.
Thank you for putting up with me on this episode, and we will talk to you all later.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to Dizzoriented. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, or your podcast service of choice. For more content, including podcast recaps, blog posts, and our contact information, please check out our website, Dizzoriented.com. Thanks again for listening, and see you real soon.